Last Sunday, November 17th, was a night I'll never forget. A night that twisted something inside me, turned something dark. My friend, Jason, and I had a plan, something innocent enough at first. We were going to climb a mountain near our town and retake an old photo we had snapped almost 2 years ago. Nostalgia. That's all it was supposed to be. The trail started off easy, a clear dirt path winding through the trees, but it was slow, too slow. I don't like waiting. I don't like wasting time. So, I convinced Jason to take a shortcut, a direct climb to the top. Through the thick underbrush, through the tall grass that clawed at our clothes. Some of the plants had these tiny, needle-like spikes, slicing at our skin when we forced our way through. I barely felt them. Pain never really bothered me. We had our jackets and pants for protection, but Jason winced at every scratch. The deeper we pushed, the darker it got. There was no moonlight beneath the tangled canopy, just the dim glow of our phone flashlights cutting through the black. Every step was a risk, loose dirt, hidden roots, branches reaching like skeletal fingers to snag us. But I thrived in that uncertainty. Every near slip, every sharp snap of a twig, it thrilled me. It made me feel alive. After about half an hour of this, we made it to the top. The city stretched out before us, a sea of twinkling lights. It was beautiful. For a moment, Jason forgot about his scratched arms and winded breath. We just stood there, looking down at the world like we owned it. Then, we turned back. Going down should have been easier, but those same branches and thorns seemed angrier this time, like they knew we had no choice but to push through them. Eventually, we found a trail, something well-worn, something that would lead us back to where we started. Jason relaxed. I didn't. Something about the night felt different now, like the air had thickened. Jason didn't notice. He was too busy fiddling with his phone, so I offered him my left AirPod. He took it, and I put on my motivational playlist. Music filled the silence, and we kept walking. Just as we were nearing the exit of the trail, I stopped to tie my shoe. A simple thing. We were playing "Staying Alive" by the Bee Gees when Jason went still. I felt it before I even looked up, the shift in his body, the sudden inhale. I glanced at him, saw his face pale under the dim light, his gaze locked on something behind me. I straightened, but before I could turn, Jason grabbed my jacket. His voice was sharp, urgent. Get up. Run. Hurry. And we ran. I didn't ask why. Not at first. I didn't look back. My heartbeat roared in my ears, my feet pounded against the dirt, and Jason's grip on my sleeve was iron-tight. We sprinted like animals fleeing a predator, but I had no idea what the predator was. 15 seconds. That's how long we ran before Jason let go, before we finally slowed down, panting, burning. We had made it to the city, to the sidewalk. The comforting glow of streetlights and store signs surrounded us now, but my skin crawled. I turned to Jason, breathless. What the hell was that? He was still looking over his shoulder, eyes darting, scanning. Finally, he spoke, and his words were colder than the night air. A guy came out of the woods behind us. I frowned. What? I saw him. Jason's voice was flat, certain. He just walked out of the trees on our left. My mind raced. I hadn't heard anything, hadn't seen anything. But Jason wasn't the type to mess around with something like this. We kept walking, fast but controlled, checking behind us every few moments. No one was following. I exhaled slowly, reached into my pocket. Do you still have my AirPod? Jason nodded, handed it back. I placed both AirPods back in their case, shutting the lid with a soft snap. I wasn't going to use them again tonight. I wanted to hear everything now. We made our way to a few more stores, lingering in the artificial light, waiting for Jason's mom to pick us up. When she finally did, neither of us spoke much. We got home safe. But that night, as I lay in bed staring at my ceiling, I kept replaying it. The chase. The terror in Jason's voice. The thing I never saw. And I wondered, what would have happened if I had turned around just a second later? Would I have seen it? Would it have seen me? Sleep didn't come easy that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt like I was still running, like my feet were still pounding against the dirt trail, my breath still ragged in my chest. The sensation of Jason's hand gripping my jacket lingered like a phantom touch. My mind kept repeating his words over and over. A guy came out of the woods behind us. I should have seen something. I should have heard something. But there had been nothing, just Jason's fear and the sudden, undeniable urge to flee. Lying there in the dark, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed in me. A seed had been planted, something cold and twisting. I didn't just feel afraid. I felt angry. Angry that we ran, angry that I never saw the man for myself. Angry that, despite my instincts, despite the 2 years I spent training, we had been prey. By the time the first slivers of dawn pushed through my blinds, my exhaustion had twisted into determination. I needed to know what happened. I needed to understand why Jason had been so afraid. I spent the day restless, distracted. Every sound around me felt sharper, every shadow seemed to stretch too long. Jason texted me once, just a simple, "That was crazy last night." I stared at the message, my fingers hovering over my keyboard, before finally typing back, "We should go back." The 3 dots appeared, flickered, then stopped. No reply. I didn't expect him to agree, but I was going back whether he came with me or not. That night, I packed carefully. Black clothes. Sturdy boots. My heaviest jacket. My flashlight, fully charged. A switchblade. I told myself it was just for peace of mind, but deep down, I knew better. By the time I stepped outside, the sky was an inky black, clouds swallowing what little moonlight tried to shine through. I exhaled, watching the breath curl into the cold air, and started walking. The streets were mostly empty, just the occasional car or lone pedestrian. My footsteps echoed as I made my way toward the mountain. With each step, my heartbeat steadied, my breath evened out. I wasn't afraid anymore. I was ready. The entrance to the trail was even darker than I remembered, the trees pressing in like looming sentinels. I paused, listening. The silence felt thicker than before, heavier. Something was different. I switched on my flashlight, the beam cutting through the darkness, and stepped onto the path. Each footfall felt deliberate, controlled. I wasn't rushing. I wasn't panicking. I was here for answers. It took me about 20 minutes to reach the spot where Jason and I had stopped the night before. The dirt was undisturbed, the branches still broken from where we had pushed through in our frantic escape. But as I scanned the area, my stomach knotted. There, half hidden beneath a tangle of roots, was a footprint. Not just any footprint. A deep, deliberate impression. Bigger than mine, bigger than Jason's. Someone had been here. And they had been watching. I crouched down, running my fingers along the edge of the footprint. The earth was still fresh, slightly damp from the night air. Whoever left this mark hadn't been here long ago. My pulse pounded in my ears as I examined the surrounding area. More footprints. Not just one set, but 2. Maybe 3. And they weren't just wandering aimlessly. They had a pattern, a deliberate path that circled where Jason and I had stopped the night before. My throat tightened. Whoever had come out of the woods behind us hadn't just been a random person on a late-night walk. They had been waiting. A low rustling sound snapped me out of my trance. I froze, every muscle tensing, and flicked my flashlight toward the trees. Nothing. Just the wind whispering through the branches. But I wasn't convinced. I straightened slowly, gripping the handle of my switchblade in my pocket. I wasn't alone. A part of me, some dark, reckless part, wanted to call out, to challenge whatever was out there, to drag it into the open. But I wasn't stupid. Not yet. Instead, I killed my flashlight, letting the darkness swallow me whole. If someone was out there, they wouldn't see me coming either. I stepped lightly, following the line of footprints deeper into the woods. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, to leave this place behind. But I had to know. I had to see for myself. The trail led me to a small clearing, a break in the trees where the moon barely touched the earth. My breath hitched. In the middle of the clearing, partially covered by leaves and dirt, was something metallic. A glint of silver in the dark. I approached slowly, kneeling down to brush away the debris. My stomach lurched. A knife. A long, jagged hunting knife, the kind used for skinning, for cutting deep. And next to it, a phone. Jason's phone. I grabbed it, flipping it over. The screen was cracked, but when I pressed the power button, it flickered to life. My heart pounded as I swiped through the last few messages. One unread text. From an unknown number. You should have run faster. A branch snapped behind me. I turned, but the darkness was already closing in. I didn't hesitate. My grip tightened around the switchblade as I shot up to my feet, heart hammering against my ribs. My breath came in short, shallow bursts, but I forced myself to stay quiet. To listen. Silence. Not the kind that made you feel safe, but the kind that swallowed everything, that made you feel like you weren't just alone, you were being watched. My fingers hovered over Jason's phone, debating whether to call him, to call anyone. But the text message was still glowing on the screen, a grim reminder that someone had been one step ahead of me this whole time. You should have run faster. I turned slowly, scanning the tree line. My flashlight was still off, but I could make out vague shapes in the dark, trees, rocks, the shifting shadows between them. Then, a movement. A figure, just barely visible against the darkness, standing at the edge of the clearing. A cold wave of dread crawled up my spine. I bolted. Branches whipped against my face, my legs burned as I pushed through the undergrowth, but I didn't stop. The sound of footsteps crashed behind me, heavy, relentless. Whoever they weren't just following me, they were hunting me. The ground sloped downward, and I half slid, half ran until my feet hit solid dirt again. The trail. I didn't even think. I sprinted down, faster than I ever had in my life, my lungs screaming for air. The entrance was close. Just a little more. Just a little. A hand clamped around my wrist. I twisted, slashing wildly with the knife, and felt it connect with something solid. A sharp, pained grunt. The grip loosened. I wrenched free and kept running, my legs numb, my mind blank except for one desperate thought: get out, get out, get out. The second my feet hit pavement, I collapsed onto the sidewalk, gasping. I scrambled up and looked back. The entrance to the trail loomed in the dark, empty. Whoever had been chasing me was gone. I checked Jason's phone again, my hands shaking. The text was still there. I blocked the number. Then, without thinking, I hurled the phone into the nearest storm drain. Some things weren't meant to be understood. I walked home without looking back. And I never went near that mountain again.